And in today's market weekly forecast, we're going to talk about the stock, gold, and crypto market coming up after the intro. What's up, guys? This is JC. Welcome to the Wealth Engineering channel. The more you pay attention to, the more aware you become. And in this channel, we pay attention to stocks, crypto, real estate, and business to find the best place to grow your portfolio. If this is something that interests you, make sure you smash the like button, subscribe, and click the bell. One of the best places you could have put your money this year was in cryptocurrencies. In our course, we talk about cryptocurrencies as well as macroeconomy, how to trade and invest, and everything you need to know to start building your wealth. I'm actually going to add 2 extra courses by the end of this week, so make sure you stay tuned, click on the link in the description below and check it out. As usual, every Sundays, we do a market review and see what's going on. So you came here for the truth. Let's just dive deep into it. All right, guys, I want to start with the stock market, S&P 500 index. And we'll look at this. We're getting a doji candle. And this candle, we've discussed about it on the channel before. It's a doji candle, meaning it's an indecisive candle. The price has been going bullish, bearish, and settle in the middle with a thin bezel. So the body of the candle is very thin. It symbolizes an indecision point. And at some point, the market either has to go up or down. So far, we're still staying on this resistance line that we have set. And it's interesting to see this doji candle right here, despite having more clarity on the election and having Biden elected as president. Even the president of China is actually congratulating Biden for winning the election. So it's getting more and more clear that Biden is going to sit in office. And it's surprising to see this candle right here. I was expecting a larger boost in the stock market, but it seems that we're not getting it. It doesn't mean it won't come because the market is actually getting more greedy now. This is the fear index for the entire stock market. It's pointing up, it's greedy, meaning more people are interested into buying into the stock market. So we're forming some nice structure right here. We had a high, we had a lower high, and here we're at least at the very least equal to it. If we start forming another high, which is higher than this one, then we can cancel the downward pattern and challenge this point right here, which is also on a downward section. But it's going to be interesting to see what the channel is. Ideally, if the stock market is going up, we need to break this orange line right here. And so far, it's not doing that yet. So we'll wait and see. And remember also the ash ribbon, which is the signal that triggers about 2 or 3 times a year. It's still on its way to be triggered. It's also a sign that the market may dip to create a perfect buying point. So we're going to wait a couple. It could trigger in the next month or 2, but every week we're getting closer to a decision making, and right now we can see that this pattern is well on its way to make this decision. This is the gold chart on a weekly time frame. Now gold is actually doing something very interesting, and it's forming a pattern. We're going to get to that. Before that, let's look at the indicators. So this indicator is still pointing downwards. We're also having the ash ribbon about to trigger on the gold market as well. MACD is still forming momentum on the downside, but the price are not actually going this low in the first place. And that's very interesting. So to see it clearly, this is the pattern right here. We can see that for the last couple of days, we had EMA 21 and price actions below the EMA 21 that happened a couple times. It's starting to form like a bearish pattern, and the RSI can show you that clearly we're below 50 on the RSI level, very close to cross it. But we're also forming an interesting pattern, and if we draw it like this, you'll be able to see it clearly. So this is like the straight line for a symmetrical triangle. There you go. So this triangle right here, usually when we have a triangle, it's a decision point about to happen. This triangle is pressuring the price to a single point where it needs to make a decision. It's either going to be a decision on the downside or a decision on the upside. And it's a pattern that I believe I'm going to wait to see more data before I can predict where this pattern is going. But I think we possibly could see a scenario like this where we see a boom in the stock in the where we see a boom in the gold market, and it does something like this, something where the price might do something like this and heading towards $2,000 an ounce for gold, above $2,000 an ounce, above this white line right here, we might see a push for gold on this price. And this is interesting because if a push on gold happens, it might be because of the stock market dropping. So that's interesting as well. Usually, when there is a small, when there is a correction on the stock market, people put their money into gold as a way to stabilize and maintain their wealth. So it could do something like this ideally, but we still need to see more data. It's very encouraging though to see that for this very long time, gold has been no momentum at all, very low momentum. RSI hasn't done anything, and it's low enough to start pushing back up. We're going to wait to see more data. Maybe it's going to continue this downward pattern until the RSI breaks this point here. So this is something that we could see. Maybe gold, maybe we might have a RSI push on the upside, testing this point right here. And if we have a break at this point right here, then it's going to be very bullish for gold. We can set new higher high, and we're going to see how that plays out. But there is some interesting actions happening here. There is another one right here that could be a test for gold. And right now, based on the symmetrical triangle that I see here, I would say maybe in December, end of December, beginning of January, it might even be around mid-December where we get some decision point that happens for gold, and it's possible that it could go bullish. Now, last week we drew this pattern right here. I said that I needed more data to validate this. We're going to have to wait for next week to validate this pattern, but we're very close to validate it. What we're looking at is possibly a cup and handle pattern. If the price rejects this line and start going lower, then we may have a cup handle. Or if the price push through, then it won't be a cup and handle, but we're going to pray and see, because a cup and handle is a very bullish sign. And this is the BTC dominance chart. It means if the chart goes up, it's very bullish for Bitcoin and not as bullish for the altcoin market. Whereas if this chart goes down, the altcoin market are going low. So what I'm expecting to see is a rejection on this line and it's slowly going down, and that could give us a temporary it could give us a temporary push on the altcoin market. That's going to be interesting. If you guys are paying attention to this chart throughout the week, maybe Tuesday or Wednesday we might be at a point of making a decision. And if we go on the low side, start looking at some altcoins to allocate your market to. It might be for a swing play for 1 or 2 weeks maximum, but we're going to wait and see. The last chart I wanted to talk about today was the Bitcoin chart. Now, Bitcoin has been doing great the last couple of weeks. Actually, if I put it on a weekly chart, you'll see it better. The last 6 weeks, Bitcoin has been very bullish and going up on a straight line, but eventually this is not sustainable. This is something that we need to see a correction or some time of consolidation for Bitcoin before it starts pumping up again. 2021, I believe, is a year of Bitcoin. Bitcoin is going to be very bullish in this year, but 6 weeks in a row when it's jumping like this, we need at least 1 week where the market is going to settle. The MACD is already high on a weekly chart. I don't see much room for it to go higher. The RSI is already on the overbought area right here, starting to curve, and after the curve it's going to be the down point. So for crypto as a whole, especially Bitcoin, I would start looking into selling my Bitcoin into stable coins. So a couple weeks ago, I actually recommended that if you had any altcoins, you should start allocating them into Bitcoin or selling them into Bitcoin. But for now, I think we should start looking to sell your Bitcoins into stable coin. When this downturn is about to happen, you want to make sure that you can keep and preserve your purchase power so that you can buy cryptocurrencies when it goes down. Remember, we are still on a bull run, It's not something that's going to stay long term on the downside. At the end, we may have a retest on the daily chart. We may have a retest around this price right here, 14,000, even on the $13,000 range. We'll have to wait and see, but we're starting to see some loss of momentum right here. Last week we talked about the evening star candle, we talked about the gravestone doji candle, and we're also forming another interesting pattern that is also bearish. So this is very important. Last week we were heading towards this symmetrical triangle. Maybe if I draw it like this, you'll be able to see it better. There you go. This is a symmetrical triangle. The price pushed up. Usually we should have seen a push that was equal to this. That's normally what happened on a symmetrical triangle. It breaks the price, and then we see something like this, where the price push up equal to this height right here, but it's not anywhere near this height. And this height would have been past $17,000, a bullish candle just like this or just like this. But we're not seeing that. Instead, we're seeing a doji candle, a reversal, a test on this line again. And I believe it's a different pattern forming, and I'm going to draw it for you better. To draw it, let's put it down on a 4-hour chart and look at what it's doing. It's doing something like this. I can remove this line right here. And this is a different type of pattern. This is a wedge, but it's a rising wedge. And a wedge has a 68% chance of reversal pattern. So a wedge like this that's going up, it's a reversal pattern, and there's a 68% chance that if it breaks this line, it's going downward. And that's going to be interesting to see. So we may see a wedge test this line right here around $14,000. That's very possible. So that doesn't mean it's not going to be bullish. It can still be bullish. If you put it on a weekly chart, you can see it's basically just above the EMA 21 weekly chart. So we might see a retest around this, but it would still be bullish. The wedge doesn't always mean that it's all gonna go down. At the end of the day, it's still a triangle. It still has to make a decision. And if it goes on the upside, we might see new height for Bitcoin. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this week close, where you can see that we're almost at this test zone right here. Maybe in Tuesday or Wednesday, we're gonna be at the point of making a decision on this lower trend here. If we break this or have a candle lower than this line right here, when we can expect to see a retest on the daily chart. And if we see a close below this orange line right here next week, then we can expect to see a test around this area right here. Cryptocurrencies are very greedy, and it's been greedy like this for 2 weeks in a row. So if you see the last couple months, look at this, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's forming a nice resistance. Well, when I see something like this, it's looking like it wants to break the 90 level. So it's very interesting. Despite having the rising wedge, we may have a scenario where it pushed back up because the greed factor is very high here. It wants to break the 90 resistance. However, if we look at the RSI, right here, it's forming a bearish divergence on the daily chart. It's forming a bearish divergence, and also on the overbought area. So these are very bearish signs. The fact that it's over the red line right here, this is a danger zone, and it's forming a bearish divergence on this area right here. It's also a bearish sign. It means that the price needs and have to correct and will be correcting because they have to follow what the indicator is saying. So with that said, next week I'm expecting to see definitely a challenge with this line. 68% chance of it or probability of it going downwards. So the chances for it to go close below this line right here next week are high. But we'll wait and see what's going on. In the meantime, if you're invested long-term on Bitcoin, on cryptocurrency, start looking into settling and preserve your purchase power on stablecoin and wait for a dip to rebuy it back. And if you're in swing trading right now, I'm not a financial advisor and this is not financial advice, but you want to pay attention to this rising wedge right here and see if we get a candle close below this line. If we do, you should start allocating your swing trading into stablecoin as well. And me, that's exactly what I'm doing right now. I'm already on stablecoin, waiting for a decision point on cryptocurrencies, and I would recommend you to do the same. So with that said, let's talk on the next video. Next week it's going to be interesting to see what happened. Make sure you click on the bell to subscribe for the channel, and we'll stay tuned for that.